Hey guys, what's up? It's Paige and welcome back to my channel. I am super excited to share today's concept with you guys, which is about subpersonalities. Now, this is not my original idea, but this will be my original interpretation of it and my experience with it. Now, where this conversation is even coming from is from this book called The Development of the Personality. It is seminars in psychological astrology done by Liz Greene and Howard Sasportas. I don't know if I said that correctly, but this is just book one of many of this seminar. And honestly, I've just been learning so much through it that I just can't not share it with you guys because I think it aligns a lot with some of the things I've previously talked about on this channel. So in one of my later videos, I did a video called Stop Labeling Yourselves, the Starseed Empath Lightworker. And I had an idea that wasn't very firmly grounded. It came to me very ranty in that video, so I wanted to build on it more and more, and I've worked to build on it. And I just posted a video recently called Stop Labeling Yourself and Others to kind of further clarify the points that I was making. And on top of that, in that video, I explained the idea of subpersonalities and the fact that you are a little bit of everything. And I think subpersonalities can pretty much explain the idea that you are mirroring other people and vice versa, because we all have different parts of us which are actually kind of the same according to like archetypal principles and stuff like that. So if this seems a little over your head, I promise you just do a little bit more research into it or ask some questions down below and I will be happy to explain more. So breaking it down, you have yourself, conscious version of you that you identify with. Now, as I've talked about previously, you have what I consider your split between your higher self and your ego. These are two poles of a spectrum, you could say, like the devil and the angel kind of thing. But that doesn't mean that it's just black and white. They are poles on the spectrum, so there is a spectrum completely in between them of different variations of, good, bad, whatever. That being said, I feel like subpersonalities go underneath the ego or higher self. And this is where I feel like you can start to understand yourself in more depth, because these personalities are more than just good or bad. Previously, when I've described it in videos, I try to kind of simplify it as good or bad, but the more that we expand into this, I think it is important to recognize that, none of these are good or bad necessarily. Like, your ego is good and bad. It has its good and bad qualities, and your subpersonalities that seem monstrous, can be exercised into good qualities, which is all of what my other videos are about. So check that out if you need more on that concept. I want to share with you guys the exercise that you can do, and that was shared in this book, for you to find your subpersonalities, because ultimately when you start defining and understanding the different characters that come together and create you can understand how your self-talk works, because these little personalities and characters, they have to talk to each other. They have to decide who's going to be the one to come out and be on the forefront and actually do the motions in this physical world, in this physical dimension. So I think that's why it might be worth your time for you to dive in and see what sort of personalities reside in you. So getting started with this process, you would want to get into a meditative state. So do some deep breathing. If you haven't seen my video about how to get into a meditative state, I will link that video above and below so you can check it out real quick to get yourself into that state that you need to be in. But once you're in your meditative state, you want to envision yourself in a field or a meadow. And I should say, when you're visualizing, you want to be loose. Whatever comes is what comes, and that's what you should accept and just kind of observe and notice. So if you visualize yourself in a field or a meadow, after you get familiar with that setting, you can start to walk over to a house that has a sign above it that says subpersonalities. Now, when you walk over to that house, you just notice it, you observe what the house looks like, and you give it a knock on the door, and you allow a subpersonality or two to come out. Now, this is where you just really observe, and you're basically interviewing this subpersonality of yourself. You're getting to know its wants, needs, desires, and how it interacts with other people. Ask it questions and get to know it, because it's part of yourself. It's part of you that either is being exercised, is not being exercised, and you can kind of see how it feels. And I will give you guys a quick example of how this went for me. So I was in my beautiful meadow and I walked up to this multicolored house that had subpersonalities written on a sign like it was from Winnie the Pooh or something like that. And when I knocked on the door, it had a bluish blob figure come out, which I drew so you guys can kind of get an imagery history of what this looked like. But his name, he said, was Carl, and we just talked a little bit, and he just told me about how he likes to be goofy, and he's basically the embodiment of Patrick from SpongeBob. Like, that was this Subpersonalities persona, and it was adorable. Honestly, during this meditation and visualization, I got like warm, fuzzy feelings. I could feel this energy, and I could also later identify it with a part of myself that is like that and really wants to just be goofy and silly. It's just kind of like, hee hee hee, I like squares, like just dorky, you know, just saying silly things like that. And I thought it was funny because during this exercise, when I was speaking to Carl, as he referred to himself as, it led on to the fact that my other personalities don't always appreciate his jokes and don't always get him. So once my meditation was ended and I was able to write down some of these qualities, I had a very clear picture of this part of me, and I was able to see clearly its needs. You know, I see that I have a part of me that needs to goof off and not take life so seriously and be careless and childish and just have stupid jokes and stuff like that. And, you know, that is a part of me that I can now honor because I feel like I have a relationship with it, because I've taken the time to build that self-talk and that relationship with that side of myself that I really can see isn't at my forefront all the time. I'm not always silly. I'm actually quite serious a lot of the time, I find. So I just found this really interesting. I think this exercise can help people kind of understand these poles that we have within us, because I think all of us experience this weird dynamic, these two contrasting poles, succeeding and being better versus, you know, having fun and staying the way you are, and so many other different kind of contrasting situations that I think it's important that we pay them some mind, and that we really face and deal with the part of ourselves that doesn't want to deal with ambivalence, but ultimately has to deal with ambivalence. You know, it's part of the process. We have conflicting parts of our personalities that once we gain awareness of these parts, we're able to do something with them and exercise them in ways that previously weren't available to the unconscious development of that characteristics. So I know this sounds a little crazy, but I also think that you guys probably can relate to what I'm talking about here, about the different sides of you, because like I said, like that silly side of me isn't the whole side of me. And the more that I went back to my subpersonalities house and knocked on the door, the more personalities I had come out that showed me different sides of myself. Like, for example, I had one that was like a chickmunk come out that was super flashy and ready to shine and stuff like that. And there's other ones that are more serious that have, you know, a higher purpose, that are more guru-like, you know, and I relate to all of those. I understand, and when I can form these kind of relationships and make it more fun by having characters that come out of these visualizations that, you know, have their own unique expressions, I think that really helps us understand ourselves and really understand and accept the fact that we are multifaceted. We are so different in so many different ways, but we can still have all of these different views and opinions, wants, needs, and yet simultaneously start integrating all of them together while they're all uniquely expressing themselves. I just really find this concept to be somewhat abstract but so worth it. And I think this might help in a weird way have compassion for people that you might not necessarily directly identify with. But I mean, if you think about it, if somebody says something critical about somebody that's like your friend, you're probably going to want to stand up for them. But if you don't identify that person as your friend, you probably won't care. And I feel like that goes a lot for your subpersonalities and their wants and needs and desires. If you don't give the certain parts of yourself the credit, awareness, and nurturing that they deserve, they're not going to be your friend. They may not even work out in your favor, and they might work against you because, you know, you're not really allowing them their space to be in your life. And I think that's something we can dive deeper into in a later video, and we can just talk about, you know, creating relationships with your subpersonalities and whatnot. So let me know if you're interested in that. But I'm gonna skedaddle, so if you have any questions, make sure you leave them down below, and of course subscribe, like this video if you like this video, follow me on my other social medias, check out Patreon if you want to learn more, and yeah, that is it. I will see you guys in a later video. Bye for now.